Three, two, one.
Indeed, let the madness begin, Ozzy. Rest in peace. Welcome to another episode of Mnet. I'm Ty. What's the guitar player's name?
Minotaur.
All right. And then we got Goraphobe here and Zach, as always, for Mnet. So welcome to
That's right.
welcome to this. And today we're going to be ranking some Van Halen, but
Yes.
I guess I could kind of go a little bit of history with Van Halen because I have a very interesting little history. Me and my dad one time, growing up in rural Kansas, where we have the most bipolar power ever. When it was a bright and sunny day, the power decided to go out, and me and my dad just turned on the stereo with the batteries in and listened to some Van Halen and the entire six pack of David Lee Roth, and made me want to attempt to play guitar. That's why I joke about Minotaur that he's a better guitar player than me, because I'm just a glorified strummer when it comes to guitar playing. So I enjoy making noise. But
Yeah.
what about you? What about you guys with Van Halen? Some history with Van Halen and everything. So
Oh man.
Minotaur, you want to go? And then we'll just go down.
As a guitar player, when I heard Van Halen as a kid, I mean, it just seemed like unreachable to play those things. Like the Eruption just seemed impossible. And Mean Street didn't even sound like a guitar; it sounded like a totally different instrument. And I remember my dad had the Fair Warning cassette tape, and we'd go in the gym and listen to that. And he put on like Mean Street and Unchained and stuff. And yeah, that was my first exposure to Van Halen. As a guitar player, it's a real. I mean, even for me now, it's after playing Megadeth and everything, it's still a challenge. It's still hard to play his stuff. It's just um,
Yeah. All right, Keith. What about you?
Man.
With your history with that?
Thinking about the history of Van Halen, I remember all this shit. I remember when Roth left. I remember when he came out with California Girl and Just a Gigolo.
Yeah.
It reminds me that I'm old enough to be all your guys' fucking dads. Oh my God. But yeah, I remember all this, and I remember how heartbroken Eddie Van Halen really was, man. He didn't want Roth to leave. Roth decided to leave because he wanted. See, the thing about Roth is Roth wanted to do a lot of that swing and a lot of that Sinatra, and he wanted to do a lot of covers. Where Eddie wanted to, especially after they started the 5150 studio, he wanted to do, originals, and he wanted to create. He didn't want to play other people's music, and it just became a point where, especially after Eddie got with Valerie Bertinelli in 1981, they became best friends and party partners, and she didn't like Roth much either. Roth did, you know what I mean? And Alex and Roth began to fight, actually get into fist fights. And they thought they were finished when Roth left. At that time, he was the biggest front man in the world. So getting Hagar was really strange. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't think it would work. And I knew them. The only way it would work is if they completely changed the kind of music that they played, which they did.
Mhm.
So,
Well, oh, I know that from what I've read, you know, Sammy Hagar wasn't even the first choice. Originally, Eddie wanted Patty Smythe.
well, I don't know about that. He just thought they were finished, and they ended up meeting through a mutual a car mechanic that they had. He
And
said,
then,
"Hey, what about Sammy?" And Sammy was like, "Dude, I just got off this hit record because the one that had I can't drive 55 on it,
Mhm.
and yeah, he didn't want to do it either. But once he got together and they jammed, it clicked, and then the rest is history with it. Some people, there's a few people that really like the Hagar era. More people these days prefer, with David Lee Roth. However, the 4 albums that they did with Hagar were all #1 albums. They all hit #1 on the top 200. So,
Yeah, well, there's no comparison nowadays because it's basically it would be I don't know, it would be like the equivalent of like there's no comparison really not because that was so huge back in the day.
mhm.
Basically, two artists basically combining. Because Sammy was already a star even before Van Halen began with Montrose. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. And Eddie was a huge fan of Montrose too.
mhm,
He was a big influence on him. And like I
mhm.
said, Sammy didn't have to, but they clicked. It worked out. They completely got their own sound, which is the only way that it was going to work. The only way. That's all I've ever heard a band replace their singer that they were successful with and stayed with the basic same sound was AC/DC. That's the only time it ever really worked.
Right.
Other than that, you look at Sabbath. Sabbath changed their music when they got Dio. Van Halen changed their music when they got Hagar. I mean, on and on. But
Yeah.
it just depends on your taste. They went more keyboard oriented and more, you know what I mean. They went a little softer, a little more commercial, I guess you would say, with Hagar.
All right. Well, Zach, what about your history of Van Halen?
Mine is definitely different from everyone else's for sure. I didn't really get into Van Halen's music till I believe 2020 is when I got into them. So very late to the game for sure. Um, but when I got into them, I think I started off with the first album, which there's no better album in their discography to start off with than the one that started it all. And I really enjoyed that album. I remember, just really enjoying songs like "Running with the Devil" and "Ain't Talking About Love" and "On Fire"
Mm.
and "Jamie's Crying." Just so many good songs on that album, and then the rest was pretty much history. I got into their other albums that they had in their discography, and it's weird because that was also the year that Eddie Van Halen passed away. May he rest in peace. And yeah, I mean that's basically it. Like I became a big fan of them since then, and they're definitely up there among one of my favorite bands in rock.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's get to the ranking a little bit. We'll just kind of I'll go and then Minotaur and then Keith and then Zach. So
All right.
number 12, we got Van Halen 3. It's not a bad album, but it feels I guess the best way how I heard this album said by one of my favorite YouTubers. He said it best, where it's basically an Eddie Van Halen solo album, and that's how he looked at it. And I think if you look at it in that context, it's actually a fairly good album. But I don't know about a Van Halen album. But I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I mean, I think on paper Gary Sharon really seemed like the good choice because he was a good front man. He did have the voice of Sammy Hagar, but you were replacing some. You would need to find that combination, somebody who has the voice of Sammy, but the showmanship of David Lee Roth. And literally, they were looking for, I mean, a needle in a haystack, and especially at that time. So I don't know who they could have gotten, but I think honestly, Van Halen 3 is not as bad. So, do you guys have anything you want to really add with Van Halen 3 or?
Oh,
think
I'll have mine.
when
I'll have
I
mine
get there.
sometime.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
so-
I'll have mine when I get there.
All right, Minotaur.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me get my last one here. Different Kind of Truth, 2012. It's close with my next one, but I just can't bear to hear David Lee Ross, voice on this album. It's very mixed. It's very hard to listen to sometimes. The songwriting isn't very strong. Some of the vocal melodies feel very forced. So I mean, I think it's last for me because this is supposed to be like a return to form for Van Halen, and it didn't do much for me. And there's not a whole lot of songs I would go back and listen to, And,
I mean,
Well, they were really missing Michael Anthony too on this. Michael Anthony was in control of a lot of those melodies and in the backing vocals. And this is their first album and only album really without him. So nothing against Wolfgang, but he just wasn't Michael Anthony. He just didn't mix quite with it. I think Michael Anthony is really underrated in what he brought to that band.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes Michael Anthony, his backing vocals were the key to that band, no matter what it was. I mean, and then look this up on YouTube. There's a bass solo that Michael Anthony does. That's amazing. This is like 86, and he's doing this bass solo. He's running around the stage, and it's like one of the most awesome bass solos ever. I mean, it's almost like something that Cliff Burton would have done because he's shredding on the bass, and that's a tremendous bass talent to even shred on the bass. I mean, he was a great. I mean, it was, and then him and Sammy I know really clicked and everything, and they brought a lot of great stuff to that band. And Wolf, Wolf is a guy where I think he's a tremendous talent when it comes to guitar playing. I mean, you're the son of Eddie Van Halen, so you're probably going to be a good guitar player.
Yeah.
But my thing is with Mammoth WVH is that I don't think Wolf is like his dad. He is not a strong singer. He's better as a backing vocalist, I feel like. So, yes, Keith.
Yeah, I have to go with the Van Halen 3 as well on this one, man. I mean, I hate to because, and it's not even Gary Sharone's fault. Gary Sharone is a good lead singer. We've heard it a lot, in the past. He didn't really write to Gary Sharone's strengths, in my opinion. And the songs, yeah, they're missing a lot of shit on this, man. This is toward the end of Michael Anthony being in the band. They had cut his salary because they said he just didn't bring much to it, and that's why he ended up leaving and going with Hagar. They had cut his salary. They had him sign a thing saying that he was going to take like so much of a percentage less, and it's just an uninspired album.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I mean, and plus, they were always trying to. I mean, I remember in an interview, Billy Sheehan, the David Lee Roth first bass player for the solo album. I know he did an interview where he was talking about how they wanted to even replace Michael Anthony with him back in the 80s, and that's why David Lee Roth ended up getting him. So they never really. I don't know if what it was like. Michael Anthony just I don't know. It just for whatever reason they just never thought he got the respect he deserves in that band. But he was a key part to that band because again the backing vocalists of that band. I mean, honestly, they needed David Lee Roth, but if they even would have Michael Anthony as a lead, it would have been an interesting thing too. So, but Zach.
Yeah, I got to go with Van Halen 3. It's easily the worst in their discography, in my opinion. Gary Sharone, who I know is from Extreme, he's a decent singer, and I think not all of this album is straight up terrible or bad. I mean, there's a couple moments on the album that I think are decent or just okay or just listenable. But yeah, I mean, you could tell that it's just not the same. The quality is just it's not there as much. So Van Halen 3's got to be last.
But next up for me is A Different Kind of Truth. I felt like David Lee. Okay, let's face it, David Lee Roth. It was more about the aspect of singing, the showmanship rather of singing. Like Keith, you said earlier, the swing, Frank Sinatra type of music, but more with a hard rock feel, and like I like I like this. I like some of the songs, like "Stay Frosty." That's a good one. But because it does feel like classic Van Halen, but it's just missing Michael.
Well, they used a lot of the songs. They used a lot of the songs that they had wrote way back in the day, back in 78, 79, 80. There's quite a few of those songs in there.
Oh yeah. So it feels like it, but again, it's just missing Michael Anthony. So, all right, Minotaur.
We're on number 11. Van Halen 3.
Yeah.
And you can tell by that cover with the Van Halen 3, shittily photoshopped on the Canon. Kind of tells you a little bit about the quality. I mean, the only reason this is higher than Different Kind of Truth is because I did get some unintentional laughs out of the album. Some very unintentionally hilarious stuff, like the song "One I Want."
So would you? So since I do sometimes call like certain movies drinking movies, would you call this a drinking album?
Kind of. I mean, there are some songs that are funny, and there's some that are just boring, like very boring, long ballads. And Gary Sharon's voice, like he's trying really, really hard to sound like Sammy sometimes. And I mean, to me, like it's mainly just forgettable. But because of those moments of like unintentional hilariousness, I got to put it a little bit higher than the Different Kind of Truth. But it has its moments, but it's easily one of the worst.
Yeah, like Extreme's got a couple of songs that are okay, but it feels like he took Extreme and just kind of tried to shove them into Van Halen. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like, because the way he sings is always just so extreme.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and even then, it's like there was a list of how I got a lot of this information. It's like people who were who really wanted to be with, who auditioned to be in Van Halen. Like there was this one girl named Sash Jordan, a very different type of singer. Like it would have been almost like Van Halen doing a country album, which I would have. I mean, I love my country music. But be interested to see Eddie do that.
You can tell people wanted it to do something. I mean, this album hit number 4 on Billboard, so I mean, you can tell people wanted it to work. It just didn't quite. And it's the first one that they had hit number 1 in like a while.
But yeah, all right, Keith.
Speaking of number 1s, I have to go with 1995's Balance, man, the last one with Hagar. You could tell Hagar was on his way out, man. That was a very nasty breakup. I mean, to this day, Alex and Hagar still don't speak. We don't know exactly why. There's been different reasons given, but he doesn't really say. But you can just tell Hagar had entered another part of his life, man, and they felt that he was putting it over Van Halen. They wanted to do a greatest hits album, and he said, "Dude, why do a greatest hits album, man? We're still on top. We've had 4 number, we've had at this point." We've had 3 number 1 albums in a row. Why would we want to do greatest hits are for bands who are, seen the best of their days? And they just couldn't agree on anything. And you can really hear it in this album, Balance at number 11. Man.
Have anything you want to add? And what's your next one?
I will. We'll talk about Balance here shortly, but I'll go with my number 11 pick for the rankings. So, A Different Kind of Truth, their last album, of course, with David Lee Roth back in the band. And this was from 2012. 2012, I don't know what it was about, a lot of these legendary rock bands that were from the 70s where, around this time, it seemed like they were putting out their final bow because, of course, you had this album. You had Aerosmith come out with Music from Another Dimension, I think it's called, which that album wasn't very good. And you also had Rush with Clockwork Angels, which is a good album. But yeah, it seems like that was the era where a lot of these bands were, putting out their final album, and this being one of them. But I think the reason this one's so low, I'm not really feeling for David Lee Roth's vocals on this album. I think some of the music itself is kind of cringe and just. I mean, they could have just went without doing this album. I think if you were to end off the Van Halen discography, would I say it's a better send-off than Van Halen 3? Sure, but that's not really saying much because I still don't think the album is all that. It's just kind of a meh album for me.
Well, Zach, you know why bands decided to put their final bow in 2012, right?
Because they thought the world was going to end?
Yeah, because everybody thought the world was going to end in 2012. So
I remember that.
yes, so that's probably why. It's like, let me get an album out.
Didn't really think about that. It's funny, I didn't really think about that.
Maybe. But no, I think we've all said our point, though, A Different Kind of Truth. It's okay, but, yeah. But my next one is 0202.
OU812.
I think it's okay. I'm more of the David Lee Roth guy, so I like Sammy because at that time I just think Sammy was the best possible choice to even be in Van Halen. I can't think of anybody who even could have replaced David Lee Roth. Sammy was the best choice, but like he said, in order to do it, it had to be a totally different band. And to this day, there's always people that argue, oh, it's Van Halen or Van Hagar, and it's going to be an endless debate, and people are going to argue about it till the end of time. But that's it's to me, it's it's good and everything. I like it, but again, I like my David Lee Roth better. So, all right,
there you go.
Minotaur.
So yeah, these next two are almost kind of tied. I'm still kind of deciding, but I'll just throw one up. I'm going with OU812. I just think this album is not bad, but it's it's kind of forgettable, and it's really hard for me to remember the songs on here. And I remember Black and Blue and a couple of others, but it's just not particularly the most memorable Van Halen album, and so that's why I had to rank it near the bottom. But it's not bad; it's just not very memorable, just like my next one. So,
yeah, no, I agree with that and everything. Yeah. All right, Keith.
Well, now for number 10, I'm gonna go for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Beat. 1991. I feel this is so commercial, man. You got what? You got Pound Cake, and you do got Right Now, and you do got a really good instrumental 316, Top of the World. But the rest of it can really be interchanged, man. You know what I mean? This is just that was the biggest problem with the Hagar era is they went really commercial, man. They stopped playing with their dicks, as I put it before last week. They had really put their dicks away at this point.
So, yeah,
I like that album.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. We'll get to that when we get to that one.
But yeah, I like it because Pound Cake is when they actually did play with their dicks, they were good. Like Pound Cake is an amazing song. And I mean, I like the guitar solo and everything, and all that stuff. But
it's not bad. It's just kind of, it's gotten to the point of happy. You know what I mean? It's happy rock instead of
Yeah.
yeah,
rock with some balls. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I do.
Yeah.
Zach,
Number 10,
yes.
I gotta go with Balance, the last Sammy Hagar Van Halen album. I do like this one. I do think it's a good album. In my opinion, I think up till this point, Van Halen has never released a bad album.
Right.
But after that, that's kind of where they dropped off, of course. I do like a lot of the tracks on this one. Seventh Seal, Can't Stop Loving You, Aftermath, I think, is on this one too. And I think Sammy's vocals are pretty good in this one. And this one's kind of interesting too because they took their sound in a sort of like darker direction with some of these songs too. And I think that's why I would have this one somewhat lower in the ranking because Van Halen's music is not really meant to be dark per se. It's meant to be like more like fun type music and all of that. But I still think it's a good album nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, my number 9 is 5150. I feel like this is kind of when I feel like they were kind of in that transition period because there are some songs where it's kind of like this kind of feels a little. Some of it feels a little David Lee Roth. They're kind of in that little transition period, but I do feel it was still a good. Like they knew what Sammy's strengths were, they knew what Eddie's strengths were, but I feel there's some points in the album where Sammy's trying a little too hard to be Dave. Especially like the beginning, hello, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, that sounds like something Dave would do. I have to say it, but I like the album because Eddie. I mean, there's a reason why Eddie is the king of guitar playing, and because he redefined the guitar to the point where there were. I mean, Keith, you remember everybody wanted to be the next Eddie Van Halen.
Well, dude, he got so good at the guitar that he wanted to switch instruments and play and start playing keyboards. He had got to a point to where there wasn't much else that he could really do. You know what I mean? Really, and that's the way he felt about it. He played it so much and he got so good, he almost got a little bored there for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, so. But yeah, all right, Minotaur.
Where are we at now?
9.
Hold on a second. 9 will be Balance for me. And I mean, just like OU812, there's not really much I can really say about this album. It's roughly in the same category. I like it a little bit more. It's got that Sammy Hagar cheesiness, in some of the songs. But it's fine. I don't hate it. But it's just not that memorable to me. It's kind of hard to talk about these albums that are kind of forgettable because you don't have much to talk about. So
Right.
That's all I can say about Balance.
Well, he's such a supreme singer over Roth. Roth is such a supreme frontman over him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Roth, because when they first hired Roth, when Roth first come and auditioned, he got that job because he had his own PA. He come from the Valley. He come from a rich family. He had his own PA system, and they could use a lot of his equipment. And that's why they decided to hire him because they spoke in their native language about how shitty he was on vocals. So you know what I mean? So it's like when they got Hagar, they got another guitar player, number one, to thicken up the sound live, because one guitarist, I don't care who you are, you don't have a very thick sound live. When you go off in solos, all you got is the bass to cover your background. Hagar brought guitar, and he brought a much more supreme voice. That's when Eddie and everybody started being more showmen because they didn't have that show that Roth brought.
I agree, and Sammy, he's not bad at guitar himself. He's pretty decent guitar player. He's good.
He's actually very talented. Hagar is, man.
And and Dave could play guitar. He did it with Ice Cream Man. But he's nowhere near as good as Sammy. It's just he's more of an acoustic. Like we keep saying, swing. It's like basically David Lee Roth wanted to be the Frank Sinatra, the Dean Martin of rock. So, which hey, I love my Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. What if in case everyone's ever curious, just watch on YouTube. The Rat Pack live and the Las Vegas stuff. At the end of the day, I love those because it's just best friends goofing on each other. The whole album, and it's amazing. But no, they brought a lot to really. So.
He just thought he was the all-around greatest entertainer on the planet, man. He just basically wanted to make a career out of mainly doing other people's songs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which brings me to my number 9, which is, in my opinion, is probably the shittiest. Gets close to the shittiest number they ever made with Roth, and that's "Diver Down." There's 4 covers on that fucking album, man. There just isn't much to really salvage from that. You know what I mean? It's almost like they decide to fuck around. Yeah. They decide to go in the studio one day, fuck around, do some covers, do a couple originals, and go home. You know what I mean? That's how it feels to me. Yeah. Diver Down was a big letdown for the fans back in the day.
I do like Happy Trails though. As a big Roy Rogers fan, it's kind of fun to see Van Halen cover that.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that shortly, but yeah, I agree.
I definitely like that album more than you do, but we'll get there.
But Pretty Woman is a pretty good cover. That's probably the best of those covers on the album.
Yeah.
That music video is pretty cool though too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zach?
Number 9?
Yes.
OU812.
Ooh, okay.
Definitely not the best, in my opinion, of the Sammy Hagar stuff, but I do like this one. I can understand why some people may have it lower, though, and why some people may say it's forgettable for the most part, but the good songs on this album, I think, are actually really good, like Mine All Mine, Black and Blue, Source of Infection, which is a very 80s sounding song, but I do dig it, though. But yeah, OU812 never really had any issues with this one, but it's never been top tier or top shelf Van Halen for me, but still quite good.
Next up for me, I have to go with Beep. First of all, it proves that Van Halen had a sense of humor. You literally have an album named Beep, and it's. It's a little. I don't want to say poppy, but a little pop hard rock in some ways. But I like some of the songs. And with it and everything, because I don't know. There are some points when sometimes maybe, hey, you just want to jam out to. You just kind of want to jam out to some of those songs, because especially I like Pound Cake, because I do think that's a. I like that guitar riff and everything, and
the drill.
Yeah. Oh yeah. At some point, guys, Minotaur is going to try that for you guys. He's going to play the guitar with the drill.
Oh, yeah, I can get one of my dad's power tools and go like that. Yeah.
What? No, even better. You're going to play with the chainsaw, but it's going to be on your hand.
Oh yeah, like Ash.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, it's still. Keep in mind though, this came out in '91, and Nirvana came out in '91 too, and everything. And this is kind of when grunge was really starting to hit big. But Van Halen still could be number 1. So.
Yeah, it started hit toward the end of '91, because you also got to remember, from the spring to the summer of 1991, Skid Row's "Slave to the Grind," Guns N' Roses' "Use Your Illusion," and Metallica's "Black" all debuted at #1. So throughout the first half of the year, and not only that, but Queensryche hit big with Empire. So through the first half of the year, metal was still kicking ass. It was the second half of the year where Nirvana and all them really started taking over.
So, Zach?
I was 18 years old.
I thought Minotaur was next.
Am I next?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, from here on it gets kind of tough for me. So some of these could definitely be interchanged, but I'm gonna have to go with I find it Diver Down. And this is, I don't hate the album. I like some of the songs on here. Hang 'em High is one of the best Van Halen songs I ever did. It's a killer song. It's an absolutely badass song. Little Guitars is good. That the Pretty Woman cover is pretty good. The Cathedral, it's a good little instrumental. But like Keith said, like a lot of them are covers. It's barely even a full-length album. It's like 18 minutes long. So it's like really hard for me to put it higher, but it's still got some redeeming stuff to it. So
yeah.
That's Diver Down.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Keith?
Oh, man. Just for nostalgia purposes and all that, at #8, I had to go back with Roth making their first album with them. You know what I mean? And I do believe this is their final album. I liked Wolfgang Joyner, even though I miss Michael Anthony. And there's a lot of the songs that they brought from like 78 to 1980, and you can at least feel that. You can at least hear where they were trying to go, and that was kind of inspiring. So, just for the reunion, I put it a little higher than a couple of the others.
Yeah. All right. Finally, Zach.
#8.
Yep.
Yes.
I got to go with Beep. Also known as For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. I think it's a solid album. Like you guys said earlier, this came out during the grunge era when grunge was pretty big, and yeah, it's a solid Sammy Hagar Van Halen album. It's got some good stuff on it. Pound Cake, Run Around, Right Now, some of the highlights for me personally. Not a bad album. Definitely not bad. I think it's actually quite good. So, yeah, good one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, as we keep saying, I mean, I like Beep. And it's quite fun. It's quite fun. It's a fun album. That's the thing about Van Halen. But getting to my next one, I actually like Balance because it's more of an appreciation for Van Halen attempting to do something different. But I felt it worked when Van Halen 3, it just was missing that it factor, because I know that Sammy Hagar was very nervous about the grunge stuff, and I knew that for this album they were heavily inspired by. I know Sammy said in an interview that he was nervous because of Alice in Chains, so they kind of tried to make a Van Halen sound with a grunge album, and I think it had that proper balance for me, where it was a darker album, but like the album says, it has that proper balance of the classic Van Halen, but a little dark as well. So, and there were some tensions in the band and everything, but sometimes when bands are, sometimes if bands aren't really working out the best, sometimes they put out their best material when they're a little angry at each other too, I mean,
he was basically on his way out, man. He was, they barely got this one recorded. They got management.
And then look at Rumors, for instance, the Fleetwood Mac album. They were not getting along when they did that album at all, and it's one of the greatest albums ever. But so
they're always fucking each other. They're always fucking each other and doing coke. You know what I mean? You can't fuck everybody in the band and do a bunch of coke and expect to last long.
Yeah. So, but I actually like Balance, but that's the great thing about opinions, and that's the great thing about Mnet, it's always about the music. So
I don't mind the album either. You know, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You know, what is it? What's that song on there that starts off with piano? I don't know.
I don't know.
but
I forget.
it's all right. It's good. So I mean, I like balance. All right, Minotaur.
What number are we on?
7.
7.
I guess. Hold on a minute. Got to go with One Lawful Carnal Knowledge, aka Beep. And yeah, I couldn't put this one. It's like any higher because the Van Halen fans would burn down my house. But it's I mean, it's one of the better Sammy albums to me. It starts off pretty strong with the first 2 tracks, Pound Cake and Judgment Day. And then, like in the middle, it kind of you have some okay ones in the middle, like Man on a Mission's good. Top of the World is good. Right Now is a good song. So yeah, it's a fairly solid album. You just probably one of the better. It's one of the better Sammy Hagar albums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Keith.
Yeah, and number 7, I have Hagar's second album with them. It's another one that hit number 1, of course. It was OU 812. I mean, you got When It's Love. You got a pretty decent Little Feat cover on here. Political Blues, which is only on the CD, and if you're streaming, I guess it's not on the album. But this is not bad. This and 5150 to me is their height with Hagar. They were a really happy band at this point. They were really happy together. They were really a unit. This is probably the most unified this band ever was, probably since first or second album that they ever made. So, yeah, OU 812 from '88.
Yeah. All right, Zach.
Number 7, right?
Yep.
Oh boy, you ready for this? I'll probably get some looks from some Van Halen fans for this one. 1984.
Wow.
This one has never been one of my favorites.
Wow.
I know it would probably rank higher for some, but I mean, I do like this album for sure. I do think it's good. It's definitely a classic, but I mean, I know it's got some of their biggest hits, Jump, Panama, and I think these songs are honestly the reason why this album isn't really as high as some others, because some of these songs are kind of overplayed, you could say. Particularly Jump and Panama, which I do think are good songs, but I do like I'll Wait. That's another good one.
Oh, I'll Wait is one of my favorite songs, and also Drop Dead Legs kicks some fucking ass.
Yeah, I think it's a good album, but it's just I don't know. Like of the basically rock stuff, it's not one of my favorites.
Man, I'll Wait to me is a masterpiece. That fucking song's badass, man.
Yeah, I like it.
Solo is so unique on that song.
It's really good shit.
Well, I guess great minds think alike. So I would have to go with 1984 as well. I mean, I actually think I might like it a little better than Zach, but this is not a competition. But I like the album, but there are the other albums I enjoy more because I like Panama. I mean, I think my biggest thing is I understand Eddie was trying to do something different because he was getting tired of the guitar and everything. He felt like he could kind of do all he could, but I almost wonder if maybe they should have just hired a keyboardist, or maybe, I don't know, have Eddie, I don't know, hey, I personally always thought the guitar was a very underrated instrument, so have Eddie play that or something, with some strings on it or something. But it's the keyboards, personally, because that felt it really felt like, I will say this though, it did give credit though, because the later 80s stuff is when they started to incorporate the keyboards, like, when we had the stuff like Europe and all that, those type of bands. And I appreciate the album for that, but yeah, I mean,
This was,
I'd rather listen
this
to
was
the other
the
Van Halen.
reestablishing his leadership in the band. This is the album that secured David Lee Roth wanting to go out solo, because it was within a year of this is when he went solo, and he made that solo demo, The California Girls. This was Eddie getting back control of his band. 1984 was.
Oh yeah. So, all right, Minotaur.
Is this number 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me hold on a second. Women and Children First.
Wow.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Trying to see what songs are on the album. So yeah, I mean, there's some songs I do like from this album a lot, like "And the Cradle Will Rock," "Romeo Delight's" really hard and heavy song. "Everybody Wants Some" is a classic, But I do think this album is a little questionable towards the end. But I still think it's good. It's a really solid album. It's a classic, but I can't put it any higher.
Right. Well, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll save a little more for down the road, but okay. Yeah.
Is that a controversial one or?
I mean, there's no controversial. It's not as controversial. It's not as controversial. It's not as controversial.
Led Zeppelin. People, you got 4 different people. You're going to have 4 different opinions.
Yeah.
It's not as controversial as putting Led Zeppelin 1 at number 6.
Hey, so. I have my reasons.
But no, no. I mean, that's a great thing about doing these type of rankings. I mean, because I don't ever see us really ranking like the popular albums first. We're going to always sit there and say our opinions, and that's what makes our very diverse so far.
Just wait till we get to the Iron Maiden ranking, and you and Zach are going to rank the Killers at the bottom.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we're going to rank it above Book of Souls, totally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. But yeah.
Halfway down, I got Hagar's first one with them, which was their first #1 album, which is 5150. Why can't this be love? Dreams. I really like Dreams. I really like Love Walks In, which is weird because these kind of songs are the same reason why I started disliking the Hagar era. But these first ones here with them, I don't know, something about Dreams and Love Walks In and shit. Those 2 songs I really like. They're really inspiring. They got a really good sound to them. It's the best that they could be with a Hagar type sound mixed with them. So halfway down, about 5150 from 1986.
Well, and Dreams is I like those type of songs that Dreams, and all that stuff, because sometimes if you're ever feeling down, put on some happy Van Hagar stuff, and
right,
you'll feel in a better mood. So I feel like so.
Yeah.
All right, Zach.
Or number what? 6?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do have the top 6. I do have the CDs here with me. So, number 6, Diver Down. I think this album's kind of underrated. Yeah, it does have a lot of covers on it. Probably too many, but I think there's some really strong stuff on this album, and I actually don't mind the covers. There's some good stuff. Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Hang 'em High, Secrets. You'll have Pretty Woman, and Little Guitars is a really good one as well. But yeah, Happy Trails, lots of good stuff from this album. So yeah, I've never had an issue with Diver Down. Always thought it was pretty good, pretty underrated too. and might get some looks for placing this album above 1984. But
Well, "Hang 'Em High" is a great song. It's
oh, it is.
one of my favorite Van Halen songs.
Well,
yeah, no,
don't.
it's a strong album though.
Well,
I've always really liked it.
Well, don't worry, Zach. Because again, great minds think alike.
Yeah, there you go.
This was totally unplanned, but